Order. Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yes, 1-0. Roll call.
Mayor Larkey.
Here.
Councilmember White.
Here.
Councilmember Powell. Here. Councilmember Pryan.
Here.
Councilmember Kraft.
Here.
Councilmember Clark.
Here.
Councilmember Goff.
Here.
Councilmember Lawson.
Here.
Councilmember Richardson.
He is en route. He may join us. He kind of forgot. So. All right, we have a quorum. Items for review and discussion.
Let me start this off by, if you guys don't mind, Mr. Mayor
Go
and
ahead.
Council.
Go ahead.
This is our next step in the budget process as we see this. You'll recall that we did ward meetings to try and get some feedback from residents on what their issues and priorities were. We aggregated all that information, sent that out to the council members a few weeks back, and then some of you guys sent back some feedback on your specific priorities yourself. Those are listed and should be on your tabletops in front of you, so you can keep those in mind as we're having these conversations and discussions. What we're hoping to do today is present to you our 2024-28 through 2028 capital improvement plan. It's not at all a final project or product at this point, but these are the projects that we're looking to potentially do this year are all going to be included. We're going to go through them one by one. I would love to have as much feedback from you guys as possible on any and all of these projects on their merit. I'd ask you not to get too hung up yet on the funding mechanisms behind some of these projects necessarily, because as we get through the operational budget process, we'll see how much funding we have to potentially put toward capital projects, and then it'll pare down from here. But I'd like to definitely get your feedback on what you think on the projects that we have here proposed for you today. With that said, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Greg, and he's going to, our Public Works Director, and he's going to lead us through this. Councilman. I'm done with my part.
Go ahead. Microphone.
How do we get some of these items that's over in the wards over to a actual plan in the capital?
You mean like the council priorities? Is that what you're saying specifically?
Yeah.
Are there any projects that, as we go through this, if there's something that's missing, please, let us know what you'd like that we don't have in here. Some things aren't going to be capital. Some of these priorities are not necessarily capital projects. They might be something operationally that we have to do or look at, or there might be stuff we're already working on. Stuff like lighting for neighborhoods, stuff like we already have a streets project. We already have streets projects and somewhat in place largely because of the bonding that was passed by voters. Things like that. But we can by any means we can discuss any and all of these priorities as you would see fit, and we can tell you where we're at on those as well. Does that make sense? And if there's a project that if there's a capital project that you guys have identified that we don't have in our CIP, then by all means, let's have that conversation.
Well, like sidewalks.
Like sidewalks.
You mentioned trails, but maybe that's a euphemism for sidewalks. I don't know. But
Sidewalks is an issue everywhere. I don't care if it's in Ward 1, 2, 3, or 4.
Oh, no.
That's correct.
If you get them in Old Town, then I got to have them on VC, Allen, K, Terry. You ain't funding it that way. Without doing a CID, you can't fund sidewalks.
Sidewalks are a difficult thing to get done. That's absolutely right.
It's a wish list for everybody, don't get me wrong, but it's...
I went through and found the common things between all 4 wards, or at least things that were in at least 2 lists from the wards. I didn't have this list to see what you guys had said, but anyway. And homeless, sidewalks, traffic, single-family rentals, Main Street street improvements, recycling, and lighting. So we mentioned lighting, And we've talked about sidewalks. I don't see anything, well, we can go down and.
Certain things aren't
we'll
going to
check-
be capital specific, like, you know,
Right.
recycling program isn't a capital project.
Sure.
Homelessness isn't a capital project, right?
Well, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Brett's got some ideas about it. But anyway,
You want to funnel them into one little spot that we build for them?
Well.
I'm making light of it, and I shouldn't be, but that's,
I just want, you are correct, we need sidewalks all over the place. You are correct, we need sidewalks all over the place, but we got to start somewhere.
okay.
Or we don't start, and it's just like the water, it
That's
gets
what-
keep kicking down the curve, down the curve.
Well,
down
that's
the
what
curve.
happened with the water lines 20 years ago, so yeah,
We gotta start somewhere.
And I will
stopped.
I will say that we don't have a sidewalk specific program in here identified in our capital project.
Well, the problem not with just with sidewalks, Joe, I didn't want to cut you off, but with sidewalks, you also had to put in curbs and gutters and
Right.
do all that because a lot of those subdivisions have ditches for the water retention and all that stuff also. So it's not just sidewalks that we're missing, it's all the other stuff.
And there are lots of different ways you can attack sidewalks, and I think that we should come up with, if the council would like us to do so, I think that we should come up with a strategy that's all, you know, bigger and more than just one capital plan necessarily, because the need is so big.
Well, I mean, we tried to do that in Ward 4 last year, Perry. We had someone that wanted a second entrance, and we was gonna do a CID, and of course, you know, you have 4 people that said they wanted it, and the other 40 said, I mean, I talked to someone in West Belton one time 3 years ago about sidewalks and curbs and gutters and how we could do a CID program and how it'd only add, you know, $600 a year to their taxes and for 20 years, and you kind of like going, we don't want that. And I'm like,
Right.
so I mean, that's how we can do all that, and we've looked at it. I just don't know how unless you can get some federal funding for sidewalks, I just don't know how we're ever going to fund sidewalks.
There are ways, and I don't want to sell something that I can't deliver on, but there are potential ways we can look at using some of the federal programs that are out there to get some sidewalks done here locally. That would involve creating a
I think
larger plan
Councilwoman
to do
Kraft
so.
one time found out that we're in the wrong demographics. We're too big, but we're too small.
Yeah, there's part of that, but at the same time, I mean, there's potential that if we did a plan, and we tailored that plan to some federal programs that are out there, that we might have some luck.
So we can do
potentially doing some
sidewalks
of
with
that.
bike lanes, is what you're saying.
Maybe, or, I mean, for instance, there's like a Safe Routes to Schools program is one that comes to mind, that we had some success with when I was in Atchison. Some of that can depend on your demographics, but if you create a plan to add safe routes to schools, and that includes installing some sidewalks in areas that don't have sidewalks, sometimes you can get some federal funding for stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's always a wish list. I mean, I'm not,
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's good to have a wish list, but yeah.
I just, and at the risk of bogging this conversation down tonight, I think that's a bigger problem and issue than any one CIP project at this point. Just because if we were to start doing sidewalks for one neighborhood, then we have to start doing sidewalks for all neighborhoods, and so it's something we couldn't fairly do at this point unless we had a strategic, plan that we could work from. That was larger than just a one capital project at a time.
I think, from my standpoint,
Oh, no, go ahead.
I think from my standpoint, I'd like to see a strategic plan developed around, because
course.
it's a topic that just keeps getting kicked down the curve.
course.
And I think at some point, we need to at least start putting a plan together so that way we can make plans instead of,
Well, if it's a priority for everybody, we can get that started and have something, at least get the beginnings of it ready in the spring so we can start having
A
that
lot of
conversation.
times we hear that, well, at least we have in most of Old Town Belton, we have sidewalks. But we saw on a real estate page a house for sale in downtown Belton, and it said walkability poor. So I mean, it reflects on a community too, if you don't have good sidewalks. But my question was, is the scope of this meeting, or you mentioned that this is about capital improvements and we're talking about capital stuff. That implies that after we get done with the capital improvements, we can talk about other programs that aren't capital, right? Or is that for another meeting?
Tonight, I'm trying to just focus mostly on our capital projects and the projects that we're bringing here, and then if there are any we have not identified that you think are a priority, then we need to make sure we get those rolling soon.
But if something, if you say, well, that's not a capital project, then we'll have another meeting about
We
that.
can have conversations of other stuff, absolutely, and and the operational budget is on the horizon. The operational budgets are due back to the finance director this week from each of the departments, and then we're gonna start pairing through those. And we will have an operational budget workshop for all of you as well in January, where we will start going through the operations and how we handle that.
Okay.
Make sense?
Anything else? Let's get started then.
Cool. Greg?
So saying that, that's a nice lead off. The capital program is based upon items that are $5,000 or more that'll last at least 5 years. So, in the packet that was given to you, we're going to basically go through it. I made slides basically from those items. Each one of the slides that's in the book that was given to you has a location map that shows you where it's at, what it's about. The top half has the funding sources, is basically where the money's coming from. And then the bottom half of the chart is,
He said we had a book.
Oh,
I didn't get a book.
yeah, that's right here. What's this?
that
Got a book. We didn't get books.
is in the
It's in the
agenda.
agenda, yeah, I know,
On the
but,
agenda.
It's in here.
I know, I'm looking at it, but he said in your book. I said, I didn't get a book. You got a book. I didn't get a book.
Last year we got a book.
You got a book?
Here's the last year's book.
You guys have books.
It looks like just like this year's book, but but
All
it's
those
different.
trees
obviously.
were saved.
Don't get me wrong, I don't need a book. It's in my agenda, but I didn't get a book.
I didn't want to print out another 10 books. I'm sorry.
All right, keep
I
going.
I have
You
one
got
that
an
I'm looking
electronic
at.
book.
Electronic book.
You got an e-book.
All right, I'm getting off to a rough start here. So the first one is we're going to look at facilities first. The first one we're looking at is the Public Works facility. As many of you came out and saw our lot, there's still a few more things to be done out there. We have to put a roof on Building C. It leaks. It leaked since the day we got there, but we spray foamed it and hopefully sealing the leaks, but that didn't work, and they told me it probably wouldn't work. But we're going to do that. We're going to be making preparations for a truck wash, and we're finishing Building D next year. And there's some minor things like fixing some gutters and other items that is going to be out there. Does anybody have a
So,
question?
the truck wash on this single page 30 or page 6?
It's everything that we're going to do is just in this one line item. I didn't separate out to like every specific thing.
Okay.
How much more do you anticipate needing for that?
For our lot,
After this year, I know you don't have it on here.
we're going to have to go through, we have a lot of roofs that we've never even touched. So we have roofs we need to continue to repair. There's some siding work that needs to be done in some of the buildings. But it's going to continue to go down. It's 900,000, now it's 600,000. We're going to try to keep bringing it down and down for the next couple of years. But it's going to be getting down to a lot of maintenance.
This is only the second installment from the original 900,000 we did like 3
Correct.
years ago.
Yep. And a lot of that bought the land when we did that first one. The next one is the senior center. There's been continuous work being done on it. This next year is planned for drywall repair and doing lighting work out there. Does anybody have any questions about it? Oh wait, this is a team effort too, so if you have questions, everyone can answer questions about their specific item. The next item is at the golf course. Jay's wanting to do some more paving out there. Now, $100,000 is how much the paving is out there. It's going to be really budget dependent. How much he can afford in his budget is how much it'll be. I guarantee it won't be $100,000.
So is this for the golf trails or is this for the
It's
parking lot? We
it's
haven't
some
done
of
the
the-
parking lot this year.
It's some of the trail work, and some of it's the back parking lot where they have the golf carts. I'm not that familiar with the golf course, but I'm sure you are. But it's I guess the back area where the golf carts come in and out of the building, and some trail work.
Well, Jay, you haven't done the parking lot yet, have you?
No, but it is scheduled to be done this fiscal year. So Like many projects, it's just, it's waiting to be done.
Okay.
So that is included in this year's budget. What I've identified is the 3 areas surrounding the clubhouse. So we have the cart staging area outside the pro shop. We have the area behind the clubhouse that has deteriorated quite a bit. And then we have the area over by the cart barn. So this is basically all of the areas around that surround the clubhouse that really just need an overlay. There's not a lot of traffic beyond golf carts, but just to dress the area up. We would also address the area between the 2 putting greens and widen and/or curb that area. So that's included in this target area. So as Greg stated, depending on what we have available, this could be broken into multi-year type of a scenario to where we can, I look at it as 3 phases. So,
I mean, I know they golf, but they haven't golfed out there this year, but I just know some of the trails out there are needing repairs and have for a couple of years. So I didn't know if this was gonna take care of all that, or you're just basically saying up around the clubhouse area.
correct. So what we try to do in the operational budget, so as our city managers mentioned, so in the operational side of the budget, we try to allocate a certain amount of dollars that we can go out to do repairs of the golf court trails. Now, that might get to a point where it shows up on the CIP, but right now, we're just trying to focus on allotting a certain amount of money to be able to go out and do patch and repair of those areas. But that would be on the operational side, not in the capital improvement
Yep.
part of it.
Definitely needs it. It's been 20 years, so.
Yep.
The next item is at the police station. Police station's HVAC units are going bad. Right now, we're going to have an ordinance this next meeting about replacing one of the other units. This is another unit next year that will need to be replaced.
Wasn't this in 2023 budget also? Was that a separate? We just had a bid on this one. I thought that,
We do have a bid on one. It was not in the budget. Scott can answer that.
There's, on the original building, there was 3 air conditioners. One of those is the one that just went out this year that we're having to do an emergency purchase. This is the second of those 3 that we're needing to do. It was identified at the same time the current one went out.
I just know I got an email from one of the contractors about the bid process, so I knew we had something in this year's budget about that, so.
That one wasn't a budget for this year. It was an emergency. And that's the ordinance that's going to be coming before you guys
Yeah.
pretty shortly.
I recall now, the one that you saw in the budget for this year was a new one to be added to the 911 Communications Center because they've been without air conditioning and there is problems with that ventilation system. So that was, and we bypassed on that to help pay for this emergency purchase.
All right, thank you.
The next item is still at the police station. It's downspouts. They're scheduled for $7,000.
Do we not, is this replacements?
We have water penetration from the emergency downspouts from the roof that have actually got into the building where we keep our records. And on the corner of the building where the court is, it's eroding by the foundation. And so this is just PVC pipes that will be put into the ground that hook to those downspouts to take the water away from the foundation so we can keep the damage to a minimum and stop it.
I guess my question to you, Joe, is, seems like more operational kind of stuff that we should have built in our budget for police departments and fire departments and city hall, that we should have maintenance or something in there, shouldn't we?
Yeah, it's something we can look at is
mean,
upping our maintenance
To
budgets.
understand, we're going to talk about downspouts. I mean, I don't really care about downspouts. I mean, it's not something that we need in the build. I mean, we need it, don't get me wrong, make sure the water gets away from the building, we don't have flooding issues and all that, but I don't know if that's something we really need to know about, if we just have it in our maintenance program and they got 25, 40, 50,000, whatever we need in there for maintenance every year.
Some of these things that can go either way. Technically, a capital purchase is like like Greg said at the beginning, it could be anything that's over $5,000 that has a 5-year lifespan. Sometimes those things are handled as routine maintenance and might be in an operational budget. You can literally see it on either side of the equation. So your point's taken well. Yes, some of this stuff could definitely be in an operational budget.
All right, thank you.
The next item is still at the police station. It is parking lot improvements. It's just sealing some of the parking lots and doing some minor asphalt replacement to make sure they're going well. The other thing is to make sure they're striped. The parking lot right now is not striped very well, and so it'll be restriped so you can see the lines really well. The next item is at fire station number 2. It needs air conditioner replacement, and that's why it's on the budget.
Question about, I think it was 2017, we did the parking lots, we resealed them, both the fire station and the police station. Do you not want to do that, or?
It's in this year's budget, so it's a project that's still waiting to be done.
Okay. That's it.
Did you guys get a summons from Code yet?
Now we've been blocking them from the building.
I got a angry business owner got a summons from Codes about their parking lot, so I didn't know if we sent one to ourselves, so, because your parking lot's horrible at Station 1.
Yes, it is.
I
think
just want to know if Codes was being equal here.
I think that's damage from the building next door, maybe. We're gonna look into that.
I just tell people we're going to treat everybody equally. We got to treat them. So,
The next item is police station emergency management cameras. These are 2 cameras that they plan to install. They're pan tilt zoom cameras. They'd be on the Markey Tower water tower and the old radio tower at the police station, so they can be used to monitor the progress of inclement weather as it approaches the city.
Why do we need them?
It would just add to helping getting social information out about weather-related events. And then the other thing is it'll just help us with regards to how we interact with our peers, because we'll actually share the information with Public Works if we do have damage in the city or those types of events, or BEMA, or even sharing it with Cass County if they need to come help us.
The next item is police station emergency management drones. The project will include 2 M30 SUAS drones. They're going to replace 2 of their smaller drones. These drones have the same camera and thermal capability as the larger drones, but a more compact airframe.
we're going to sell those drones.
The plan is to give the existing drones to other city departments so they can use them, and then we would upgrade to these newer ones.
Okay.
The next project is a planned project to do work at City Hall and annex to do the rehabilitation we talked about before. This is something that's basically a plan at this point. We're going to try to see if we try to implement it this year, next year, when we can financially be able to do this plan. It is to basically rehabilitate the 2 buildings, get everything fixed, get all the employees to 1 building, and make the old City Hall the council chambers. It'd be a 4-year plan to do it, to spread the cost out.
I got a dumb question. I mean, I don't know if we ever talked about it, but instead of trying to retrofit 2 buildings, how much would it cost just to add on to this building here and do something completely different with the old City Hall?
Well, part of the funding of this includes that the first phase is to hire an architect, who'd be an architect, a designer and planner, to actually figure that plan out. And so just going by The numbers here are basically based on square footage and dollar per square foot that is currently going on. So there's no set defined plan that we have to use. That'd be the obvious first step, is to hire someone to come up with a plan we all could agree with.
Well, I mean, I guess I'm looking at the people still over at the old city hall. We have finance, we have city manager, HR department now, and water bill people. I'm just trying to figure out if we add on 20 feet over to this side over here, if that's enough that we can retrofit this building to fit everybody without making that other one city council chambers. I mean, I think we have the room over there, and I think it'd be cheaper than $5 million. But you're telling me the architect's gonna tell me that.
Well, I don't know, that's the best way we can start off to look at it. We can look at that and tell them, here's the things they can consider, come up with a plan, and come up with a new budget.
We've got a loose potential plan, but this is not a designed project by any means, and this is just an estimate of what we potentially could have to spend if we were gonna, utilize both facilities. But if the wish is that we potentially put it into one building, we can
Well, I
look at
mean, we
that as
got rid of
well.
Public Works out of here, so
Yeah.
I'm just looking at what's left over there. I mean, you got 7 or 8 people. I mean, if we can do something with that lot, more constructive than, downtown Main Street's being revitalized. Our Main Street guy's not here, but
Right.
I think we could probably sell that off to some developer. Maybe they could develop that into something more useful than council chambers.
I think we're open to all kinds of ideas on that. I mean, I think, whatever makes the most sense, both
Yeah, I'm just-
fiscally, and from a.
8 other people here that have to
No,
talk about this.
I think that's a good, those are good points. I
Well-
mean, yeah.
Could one case be just comparing whatever these other design ideas are to just simply fixing the two buildings as they are?
Well, that's kind of what I think this kind of, I mean, this is a lot of money toward that, but it would be essentially taking the two buildings and kind of remodeling them to utilize as they are.
This is basically taking our chambers here and moving them over there. That's all that's over there is
Right.
the mayor's office and council chambers, where, to me, if we just added on to this building, we got a big section back here not being used. I mean, we could retrofit this building and add on to it, probably cheaper than $5 million, and then sell that land and that building over there and actually have revitalization downtown.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying it might be even cheaper than that, just to everybody stay where they are and fix what we got. I mean, cheaper than 5 million anyway. Maybe it's 2
We
million,
can
I
just
don't know.
keep as we are and keep moving forward and just do maintenance, and it would be a lot cheaper than this, but that doesn't, I mean,
I think this building is big enough, and when Public Works was here, I mean, I don't know how many guys we took out of here, 10, 12?
I believe it was 9 or
9?
10.
Yeah, I mean, you get 9 people, and then, I know Matt's keep adding people, but, I
we're
just
finally fully staffed there, and
Well,
we're
fully
very
staffed.
proud of that.
we don't know what that is.
It's taken a while.
But yeah, it's just, I just think adding on here seems to make more sense than having everybody still in one building and us in one building, so.
I have a comment and some questions. It makes sense to have all the staff in one building. That's a great thing to aspire to. I have some history questions about this building. When was this building constructed?
70s.
60s.
Okay. We had that big plumbing issue not that long ago. The city hall, not original city hall, not historical city hall, city hall.
Current City Hall.
Yeah. When was that
Early
constructed?
70s.
Okay. And that also has like a plethora of plumbing and other HVAC issues going on. Okay. Has that always been set up how it is now with offices and conference room? Was it ever just a council chambers? Like, I'm just wondering if we build it for
No.
this purpose, we
Chambers,
repurposed
council
it.
chambers used to be over
I
there.
used to be on city council back when we was over there. Engineering department was in council chambers back in little cubbies. And so they had to clean up their stuff every Tuesday night so people couldn't see what they were working on. His office was our executive room. I mean, the city manager's office was, when you first walk in to the left, I mean, he sat right there in the front lobby, basically. I mean, we had 40 people in that little building at one time.
Gotcha. It's
It was crazy.
fun history lesson. Thank you.
And people didn't want us to buy this building and expand, and I'm like going, oh, okay, but we did buy it.
Okay, thank you.
This is exactly the kind of feedback we're looking for with this part. I knew this one would, you know, invite some of this, and that's the point, is let's have some of these conversations now, because if,
I just think sometimes you gotta capture the revitalization, that's going on in our community, especially on Main Street. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff happening, so.
What would a brand new building cost? Public Works seem to have a lot of room over there. We
probably
could
three or
join
four
them.
times, probably 3 or 4 times this number is what a brand new building would
Give us
cost.
a little area in Public Works, we could just build one.
Look at him.
I don't think you want City Hall out that far away from downtown.
Yeah, if money were no object, yeah, by all means, but obviously we have a lot of needs for this city. Any other feedback on that? I'd love to hear, I mean, I think it's a good idea. Any other feedback on this item? Because I think it is a good idea to look at the possibility of expanding this building and seeing what we can do with it.
I don't know how long this building is, but if you had like 20, 25 feet to that side where the grass is and then to the length, I mean, we'd probably get a lot of offices back there and do the remodel on the inside, so.
Yeah, we can all just park behind the old city hall, right?
No. Oh, you can. We'll just call the police, that's all.
All right, moving along.
Poke the bear.
North Scott's a project you already know about. It's already funded, and it's just a reminder because it's going to be in next year's budget.
I guess I didn't know about the $1 million we're putting in.
As a cost share.
I knew the $1.9 million for the state federal grant from Mark, but I
Right,
didn't
so
know
we had to make a match,
okay.
and so we made the match, and since then the prices went up, and so we added additional funds last year to it in order to cover the cost of what it's going to be.
What was our original match, like?
It was we got $1.9 million, and we put $450,000 to it, and so we added basically $650,000 to it.
Okay. And by the time you do it, it's gonna be 3.5?
I'm afraid. The next one is regulatory street signs. Like you said, this is an operational deal, but because it's above the 5 years, $5,000, it's in the capital budget. The next one is Route 58 in Powell. This is already currently in the budget, and it's just showing it's rolled over. It's going to be constructed next summer. The next one is the Street and Stormwater Preservation Program. This is another, basically, it's an operational fund that we have. But since we spend over $5,000 and the things we build last more than 5 years, it is put together as a CIP item. This is like, for instance, when you bring neighborhood drainage problems to me and say, oh, by the way, in this person's backyard, this ditch has moved from being in the right of way into their yard, and we go back there and we have to redig the ditch, put in new pipes and things like that. That's where the money comes from. It's also where we do small patching and paving that our crews do, where they go out and fix places that need help.
So there's nothing specifically outlined for that in.
Not right now. We just go, and as problems come up, this is how we address them. It's the fund that pays for them.
Is this funded by the gas tax, or is this where you're getting your money from?
Correct.
Okay.
At some point in the future, I would like us to bring to you guys kind of a year's, for instance, you know, give you some examples of the work that we've done in a year using these funds, just to for you guys and the public, just to see, okay, here's where this money's going, because it's going into real projects that affect people.
The next one's the street reconstruction. This is the bond money that was approved by the voters. And this has gone into replacing curbs, the sidewalk ramps, and doing all the paving that you're seeing. And so it's a 3-year program that it was scheduled to be 4 years, but we did quite a bit this year. We're going to do more next year, and we're going to try to get it wrapped up in fiscal year 25 to get it as much quickly out there for the residents, because it's the thing that they wanted the most.
And going back to your original chart 4 years ago, what percentage of the roads are we gonna be fixing? We over 50% when it's all
Ones
done?
that we were planning on fixing?
Yeah, that chart that
Oh,
you
the
had,
chart?
poor,
Yeah, we're
bad.
about at 50% right now.
Can you update that chart for us?
Sure can. And, because there's always a 3 bond issuance, plan. And so this is the second one. So after this one's complete, when we have the opportunity, we will then issue the 3rd bond issuance and hopefully finish the program.
And this when you say curbs, that's only curbs that are already there, right? You're not putting in new curbs?
Yeah, we're not putting in new curbs. This is just fixing bad curbs. And we're not even taking out the curbs that are in good condition. Some people ask me that all the time. We skip and we just pull out the bad pieces because we don't have the money to replace all the curbs that are in the city. We just pull out the bad chunks.
Okay, thank you.
Microphone.
No, I better be quiet.
You sure?
Oh, yeah.
He's keeping his powder dry.
No, I'm not. I won't tell you over in Bradford. In front of numerous houses, they put in nice new curbs. But then they left curbs that were completely cracking there and took out, this was, I don't know how many years ago when they put in new curbs there. So they took out some good curbs and put in curbs and left curbs that were already cracking and falling apart there. So I just find it, it was ironic that we're fixing curbs and moving and not replacing a lot when they left bad ones there and replaced good ones.
I don't have an answer for that today.
There's some of us that don't even have curbs, so I guess.
Definitely don't have an answer for that.
So the next one is a comprehensive plan. The current comprehensive plan was adopted in 1992 and needs to be updated to guide development, including expansion and redevelopment efforts over the next 15 to 20 years. Man, I don't know if you want to add any more to it.
Nope. As Jenna and I presented at the last council meeting in the work session, everybody's aware that this is a 30-year plan that hasn't been updated for 30 years. So the cost of that would be hiring a consultant to assist us with doing that. Most of the funding is for their work on that. We would be overseeing the drafts and also assisting with the citizen engagement, but that really funds them kind of taking the lead on that. Some cities have attempted to do this in-house, and it typically always gets put on the back burner whenever there's a increase in project activity. So trying to get it done in a year is ideal rather than taking multiple years to get that done.
The next item is sanitary sewer inflow and infiltration, what we normally call I&I. As you can tell in the picture, it's where water's leaking into our pipes. It seems innocuous, except that when it rains, our treatment plant goes from 3 million gallons a day to sometimes 8 or 9 million gallons a day. And the idea is to stop the water that inflows because that also prevents backups in people's homes. And so we continuously work on this year after year after year.
This would also be one where it'd be nice to know what was done.
Yeah, this one and obviously the previous one we discussed, and then the next one you're going to see, we plan to do some further education of the council and the public on the projects that are getting done.
Stream-based stabilization is the same sort of thing. As you can see, whoops, in the picture, you see the sewer line that's exposed. The water is washed around it, and we need to get these back buried. Some places actually will take and put a bridge underneath them to support them because they can't actually get the water back over top of them. We have done a couple this year. One was in back of our old maintenance building, and we're working on one that's right there by Chipotle. We're waiting to get the final permit to get that thing started. We're going to get that buried and get that creek fixed all the way down near to I-49. And so there's another one that's up at the Oak Hills Park there, and we're going to be working on a project to actually pretty much eliminate that leg because it keeps getting exposed. Next item is our wastewater treatment plant. We continuously have to do maintenance to the plant. The plant works in a very acidic, high ammonia area, so it keeps breaking down. There's just no way. It's just something that is going to continuously happen. So we have money in there, and you see us bring forth different projects all the time to work on clarifiers or motors and pumps and things like that. So it's just a continuous project to keep the plant going.
Do you have any ideas why we have high ammonia? Is that because of runoff from agricultural, or what's?
Ammonia comes from people, and so every time that you
But
go,
so-
you give us ammonia.
So all municipal wastewater treatment plants have these same issues?
Yes.
Okay.
And so that is what the plant does. It's removing those things from the fluid that we get to make clear water.
Sure, yeah.
We used to have a lot bigger numbers in there. Are we done with those big items? I thought you had like $600,000 for a couple years. You were trying to replace some type of pumping system.
Right. So we've done a lot of work last year and this year, and we're hoping to keep the maintenance down on it. And so this is just our estimate for what we're going to spend this next year, and then we're going to go through the plan again before next year's budget and see what's changed, what else needs to be worked on. Because we go through different waves of things, like, we have to replace all our light bulbs for our UV system and different things like that. And so if you've never been to the plant and you want to have a tour, I'm more than happy to give you a tour of the plant.
Actually, I had the suggestion, we were having the conversation preparing for tonight's about maybe holding a meeting at the plant for you all to take a tour of it. I think it'd be worthwhile for everybody to see what.
Back in the
what we
day,
do.
we used to have, the city of Belton School District used to have government day. They'd have elections for mayor and all that for high school students. And we got elected at the same time, so they would actually take these kids when it was their day to be the police chief or the city manager. We actually got a tour of all the facilities with them, so it was kind of nice that we learned as you guys were teaching the students. But I don't think the high school does that anymore, so.
That predates me.
Huh?
That predates me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
we
know.
did not do that.
I was 2000 was when I was elected, so that doesn't predate you.
I'll check into it.
We didn't do
So
it anymore.
we still offer the high school students to come. In the last 3 years, of course, nobody's wanted to come out and visit the plant. And so,
But it wasn't just a plant, it was a fire station, the city hall, it was police stations, but we got to go around and tour all the facilities as newly elected. And it's been 20 years since I've been in a sewer plant.
Any,
Time for a new visit then.
exactly.
Yeah,
You're
I'd
right.
like to kind of update the way we do onboarding for new council anyway as they're elected, and part of that would be a full.
Well, I think it helped me a lot as a council person when I first came on, and I'm assuming
Of course.
people as they joined us and didn't know about city departments and all that other stuff, you learn a little bit about how everything works.
Well, it helps when you have especially when you have a big ticket item that comes before you and you're not exactly 100% sure how the whole thing fits in together and how it operates. It helps if you've already been there and can see, well, this is this piece and it leads to that.
And we have citizens that know that we don't have a sewer plant down at 211th and Mullen, so I mean,
Right.
Any, I don't know what the right word, I want to say update or anything about the study that we did about regionalization? I know we've got it back and you were going to look at it and.
basically, the end of the story for the regionalization study was, like I presented, is that in order for us to regionalize the plant, it's not as simple as saying we're going to welcome Raymore into our plant and then they pay for the addition to the plant. It basically comes down to when you regionalize a plant, everybody pays for the improvements. So the citizens of Belton have to pay for, if Raymore joined, the citizens of Belton would have to pay half the cost for Raymore to join. If the city of Peculiar joins, we have to pay half the cost for the city of Peculiar. And so it becomes a burden for the citizens, the residents of Belton, to pay for the improvements for Raymore and Peculiar to join us. So it becomes financially difficult to really push that forward. The other thing is that the amount of money that the Missouri Department of Natural Resources has available to it is about $2 to $3 million a year when we're looking at $200 million worth of work. So
So if we sold out to Little Blue, would they have the finances to do all that, or would that still be the same situation?
That is the exact situation. In order to make it regional, somebody else would have to take it over, which could be Little Blue. And then that's the exact funding mechanism they use. They charge out the cost to all their customers.
Gotcha.
The next item is the water main replacement. I started with these numbers, and probably before we go to the, this comes back before you as a voting item, we're probably going to adjust the numbers and increase the amount of money we're going to try to spend in '24. The difficulty right now we have in building water lines is that the parts that you have to build them, if you don't have them in stock, the lead time now is up to 40 weeks to get parts. And it's all brass. Brass has become something you can't get. So those are our meter setters. So we can get the pipe now, we can get the ductile iron, but we can't get the brass. And so we're hoping that over the next few months that gets into a better spot where we can get get the setters, and that way we can actually do more work. And so as we go forward, we're going to try to work through these issues, but we're hoping to actually do more work next year if we can find all the parts.
I'm assuming 2025 is when you're going to put in a water tower?
That would be the goal.
Have you got a spot yet?
We have not worked on that yet. First, we're still doing a pressure study, which will tell us how big of a tank it needs to be, and it's going to have to be somewhere up Kelly, because that's where the water comes from.
I know I have a couple that watches are going to ask me, so.
Yep.
Yeah, it would have to, the decision's going to be whether it's going to be on the Grandview side or the Kansas City side. And then we're going to have to figure out which city is willing to work with us to allow us to install it, and then how we actually get it permitted and go through that process.
Yep.
How much of that 14 million is the water tower, roughly?
About 10 million.
Okay.
And that's just an estimate since I don't even know what size it is.
Well, sure, yeah. Okay.
Greg, we had put some money away with ARPA to do all this or start all this. Is that anywhere in here?
So the ARPA money I'm spending this year, we did several water lines, and so that's how we did. The Walnut one is how we're doing the one that's on Belmo. We're doing several other water lines right now. And we're also using some of the money to design work to get this kicked off.
Okay.
So that's how we're doing the pressure study and some other things to get prepared for it.
All right.
The next group is really parks, and I welcome Brian to talk about these. The first one's doing work at High Blue. It's replace folding doors in the multi-AB and flooring in the multi-AB, aerobic room, and kids' corner.
There's not much more than that. For those of you who've been around here a long time, that facility is about 22 years old now, and we are inheriting a lot of maintenance issues. They've just been neglected, and everything's kind of come crashing in at one time, and so we're just trying to continue to make improvements, and we've got some patio work to do that doesn't fall under capital on the outside, because right now water is coming to the facility, it's flowing towards the facility. And once that work is done this late winter, spring, we are going to work on replacing the floors. As you know, it's a very, very busy facility. It's our main workout area, high traffic area, and those floors have just, they're over 20 years old, so.
So is that going to do more than folding doors? Is that going to replace the floors also?
Yeah. The importance of the folding doors is that facility is a huge rental source for us over the weekends. And that folding doors allows us to do 2 separate rentals in that large space.
The next item, and the picture I got, I just found online, so don't blame Brian for it, is doing pickleball courts. I have him explain what he's going to do.
So basically, the pickleball is the fastest growing sport/program, particularly with the senior population across our country and our business. And so the existing tennis courts, we're going to repair the concrete. And then there'll be 6 total pickleball courts that will run sideways across the 2 tennis courts.
So where do we go to play tennis now? The high school?
There'll still be 2 courts there.
Still 2 at High Blue?
Yeah.
Okay.
So they're gonna be combination. They're gonna be combination pickle and
Yes.
tennis.
They're up on top. Anybody ever play up there tennis? Because I know they play at the schools all the time. They got 8 or 9 good tennis courts
At our
over there.
facility?
Yeah.
To be honest with you, they're locked up because of the condition of the courts. They're a liability issue, and so they're locked up right now.
Okay.
The next item is a walking trails repairs, and it's just projects repair walking trails. Brian?
We started 2 years ago overhauling and all of our trails, and these are the last 3. There's some significant tear out and replace that needs to happen at Cleveland Lake, which is the high priority. And so, and then Somerset has, it'll be a complete tear out and replace. It's down to pretty much chat. And so this should conclude all of our trail maintenance over a 3-year period.
The next item is basketball court. This is in West Belton.
Again, it's just a facility that's simply at the end of its time, and we're going to do a complete tear out of that asphalt and replace it with concrete and a new basketball goal as well. I know some of you have fielded complaints about that facility, so it'll all be new. And we'll also be adding ADA accessibility to those facilities because they're currently not ADA accessible.
The next one's High Blue indoor pool slide and stair renovation.
So the indoor aquatic center is not as old as the original High Blue, but the indoor chemical environment does a tremendous amount of wear and tear. And so originally we were going to replace the water slides, but it's about $300,000 to do that. And so we're just basically going to have a company come in who does renovation work on one particular slide that's worse than the other one for this coming year. And then they'll also sandblast the slide tower down to, the original metal and then come back with the epoxy treatment paint. And just a side note, we just finished up today replastering the indoor pool. Again, another amenity that's seen the end of its life, and I think it was about a $60,000 project. So we should be filling that pool back up starting tomorrow.
And I believe the last one of parks is the shade structures at Markey Park.
So, as many of you know, this is a huge tourism channel for Belton and our department. Every weekend, thousands and thousands of people from all over the country come in. And so one of the biggest things that we see on our Google review is the lack of shade. And there's actually been one small change to this. This was only putting 5 shades up, and we've decided through our budget process, we're going to go ahead and do, there'll be 3 of them. This will be proposed to the park board next week. There'll be 3 of them at each facility. It's about $166,000, and that includes installation.
Say that again, 3 at each facility?
at each field.
Okay.
Each baseline and then the home plate.
And the last item, now if you look at the picture up there, it's not in Belton. I took a picture from Detroit.
Find that at Detroit.
And so the reason I put it up there is that Detroit did a lot of land acquisition as part of when a lot of people left to tear down buildings, remove the utilities, and make it suitable for redevelopment. And so this is put down as land acquisition for economic development. When an opportunity presents itself where we could purchase a piece of property and clear it of the old building or have it maybe perhaps renovated, depends on what it is, and put it back so it's ready to be on the tax rolls again as a viable property instead of being blighted property. It would be an opportunity for us, and this would put some money into the budget, so we're able to do that.
We haven't identified any specific funding sources for any of this economic development money yet. We're going to see what we have available in the budget. I do think it, and I rather than talk about a specific spot, I think it's important that we look and discuss the idea of using, of actually taking the initiative and identifying properties for renovation and rehabilitation for our community. We have identified some key areas: the downtown area, the Old Town Redevelopment District, the North Scott Redevelopment District. We've already identified those, and to get those things kick-started, it could take the city getting involved in doing some of this to start. You see that communities that are successful in doing these rehabilitation and redevelopment efforts, a lot of times they start with city investment and involvement, and then it dominoes from there. And so you'll see maybe a $1.3 million city investment turn into, $20 or $30 million of private investment, and all of a sudden you've got a whole couple of blocks that are redone, and that's how that generally will work.
Any questions, thoughts, concerns?
Well, first of all, at the very bottom of your thing, it shows the total for this year, which I guess includes grants also, is about $26 million. And at the bottom of last year, it was $57 million. So does that mean we have 25 to $30 million to play with, or going other places, or is this an aberration that it's less than half of what the budget was last time?
A lot of the dollars that you saw in the past were bond things like stormwater jobs. All that's in progress, being completed out. So all that money is all paid out. And so some of the big jobs that we had are completed.
Okay.
So the only things you see in here are the jobs that we actually have current funding for. And so a lot of those things ebb and flow. So federal funding, we had a lot more. Now we're going to have a lot less.
And while I have the floor, I'll just say, we were talking about sidewalks earlier, and at one point we had, as recently as a few years ago, a program, and I would consider it a capital program because it was over $5,000 and lasted more than 5 years, that was a 50-50 program on sidewalks. And when I asked the existing city manager at that time, why do we do away with that? They said, well, because we don't have enough money. But it seems like we have a lot of money now. So can that be put back in here? Is this a time for us to say, well, you missed this, and this off of our list, so now these are things we want to put back in, or is that for another meeting?
I think, I don't want to speak for what she said, but I know we used to do is we, the citizen, would provide the material, they would provide the labor, and I think the problem got into is we didn't have enough labor to go around to keep doing it.
Oh.
It wasn't that it cost us money, it was more about having enough labor to do it. But I agree, I like the program if we had the labor to do it, and we have the time for them to do it, but yeah.
One of the other things that I've looked at in the last year or so is slightly different program, because some of the ones that need replaced or worked on are the ones that are just heaved here or there. Some of those have sunken, and so we've looked at a mud jacking program. I don't own one right now, but we've kind of looked around trying to find one that allows you to jack the concrete back up level. And that way, there's a minimal cost. It's not no cost, but it's not the cost of replacing the square in order to fix some of these sidewalks. And so I'm kind of trying to look at different ways that we can do things like that.
Yeah. Well, and tree roots has a lot to do with it too.
There are tree root problems, and so working with homeowners on tree roots is a tough discussion, because sometimes those roots are so big, so high, the only solution is to remove the tree.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that's not a pleasant discussion.
So again, is this the time if we go through like I said, the common threads between the 4 ward things, that there was homeless was at the top. I mean, that's a side issue, not a capital issue. But sidewalks, can we somehow start a program to A, fix what we got, and B, make some new ones? Is that I don't even know. I mean, I've been here almost 2 years. I don't even know how you do that, but that's my suggestion.
I thought we had already agreed to do a,
To look at a program.
Yeah, I think we need to look at doing a kind of a holistic view of how we can do some new sidewalks and improve existing sidewalks. That looks at, lots of different areas, because it's not going to be a one size fit all
that's right.
type of solution. We're just going to have to look at what funding mechanisms are out there. And I hate to beat a dead horse. Maybe this is something that the use tax, if we could ever get it approved, could potentially fund. That's something like that. Because that would give us a funding source to do so.
I'm going to say one more thing from my soapbox, and then I'll shut up. But we have people trying to cross Main Street or a Y highway. We have people walking from Crown Park, Mobile Home Park. We have people walking from Traditions, and they're walking on grass. They're walking on the side of the road. It's a huge safety issue. There's people that have been, in the last 5 years, been hit, injured, and killed by cars because we don't have sidewalks, and yet we're putting in pickleball courts. We're considering making a new place for us to sit. It seems to me we got our priorities a little whack. We need to be more considered about what the residents want, and number 2, their safety. Or maybe I got those backwards too. But anyway, we're not a walkable community, and people try to walk, and then there's a lot of cars swerving around and not stopping. And maybe it's an enforcement issue. I don't know. Maybe the people are supposed to give 3-foot right of way to pedestrians and they don't. But I'm just seeing a lot of near accidents, and I've seen right in front of my house severe accidents where pedestrians have been hit. So it's a big issue to me.
Also, in addition to that, I think we need to look at the whole issue around transportation inside the city, because in the next year we will add at least 1,000 cars with the 2 apartments.
Yeah.
And I think we need to think about, we're only going to have one street with bikes. That's, ways away from the apartments. And I think we need to think about how we can best not just move them around, but also provide safety for people that want to use bikes, or they want to use a variety of things other than cars. And I think that needs to be part of this whole strategic planning, not just, but, and then that will also bring people to Belton, which will then bring more people.
You're both right, Councilman White. You and Councilman Powell are both right that our community is not very walkable in a lot of areas, and we do need to look at our overall view on how we transport around this community, and our over-reliance on cars, and our inability or our lack of diversity there in terms of transportation offerings and what we can handle with our infrastructure right now. Yeah, those are real concerns, I think.
Aren't sidewalks required on all new construction? Is that right, Matt?
Yep.
So, and then the trails was supposed to take care of a lot of the foot traffic and stuff in the town too. So you're really looking at just a lot of older parts of the town that needs to be fixed up, right?
I mean, I would say this, minus going to the east, one city who started being built in 1990. I mean, before that they had 3,000 people, so they don't have our issues. You go to a lot of the older communities, and I had kids that played ball, and I've been to a lot of small communities that have junior colleges, and you'd be shocked how many people don't have sidewalks, even in their main areas, just like we do. I mean, some of them still have gravel roads. So you kind of start looking at other communities a little differently when you're on city council. What are they missing, or what do they have, and how do they do it compared to what we're doing? And a lot of smaller communities, especially south of St. Louis I've been to, we don't have sidewalks anywhere.
Well, if you look at the city that's right next to us, which is smaller, and I was just out there bike riding today, they build their sidewalks before they build their houses. We build sidewalks after the houses are built, when the guy's flying out the door, and we get.
But they started building in 1990. That's what I'm telling you. When all that stuff started happening, just like we started requiring sidewalks in 1990 also.
Uh-huh.
We didn't require sidewalks in 1950.
Well, no, you're
But
right.
when you're a brand new community, you don't have these issues. They don't have water line issues over there because everything's PVC. Because guess what? They started building in 1990.
Well, I can't disagree with that, but
but that's why I said you can't use them as your comparison.
Yeah.
You need to go to other communities. I mean, even Lee Summit doesn't have walkability in their older communities. They do in their new communities. Yes, they do.
Well, I don't know. Along Douglas Street, it looks like they have a lot of sidewalks on both sides of the road.
That's a major thoroughfare. So do we.
Well, I mean,
you go
well,
58
you
highway.
only have to go a block off. Well, you only have to go a block south of where I live, and you have no sidewalks, and that's been there since 1930. So
there we go. You just answered your question.
Right.
We didn't require it back in 1930.
Right, but
You
Lee
know,
Summit
right?
was there too, and
but
we're
go in Apple Valley, go in Bradford Place.
Yeah.
They're all there in 1990 or earlier
Right.
or later. They all have sidewalks.
Yeah. Well, what's the area between? I guess we could take this offline, but
Yeah, let's move.
I'm just
Okay.
saying. I mean, you're trying to compare us to our neighbor next door that was being built in 1990.
yeah.
I think we do need to consider sidewalks when we're doing major.
You fund it.
thoroughfares.
Figure out how to fund it.
Well, but, when we're now gonna be changing and adding more traffic on Cambridge because of the way we're fixing over here, we're putting more citizens at risk because we're changing things. And I think that we need to look at safety, especially the people trying to walk along Cambridge and going to the schools.
Our whole thing has for years is developers put it in when they put in subdivisions. When if we widen Cambridge Road, we will put in sidewalks part of that process. But until that funding mechanism comes in, I don't know how you fund it. You ain't funding it unless you're getting rid of stuff.
Unless we look for it.
Well,
we're not gonna find it.
the first half of Traditions has been there for several years, and there's no sidewalks to High V. I mean, it starts at the railroad track.
All right,
And I know the official answer is let's wait till there's 4 lanes, and then maybe there'll be another reason, but by that time the contractor will be long gone. Yes.
Oh, here. I was just going to move on from there.
Yeah.
One subject we haven't talked about that we all have on our minds is the street lights. Is that a capital improvement program, or does that not fall under that? Or is that an effigy problem?
So streetlights is an interesting deal. The city currently has 1,355 streetlights. We went and looked, because I know a lot of you have asked me about adding streetlights. And so we can add a streetlight. We went through and looked at how many spots need streetlights through the city. In order to cover all the spots, it's 1,588 more streetlights. It's more than double what we have today. We pay $23 a month in streetlights, which is about $375,000 a year. In order to fix the problem, get all the lights that everybody wants, it increased our budget by another about $475,000 a year. So
that's a capital improvement.
it's not our capital. We pay a monthly fee. So every time we add a streetlight, we pay another monthly
Average,
fee.
you're not paying light, yeah.
Yeah, we don't put them in.
So are they putting solar lights up yet? I thought I read somewhere they're doing solar lights in some community to,
I'm not familiar with solar lights. I'm just familiar with them putting LEDs in.
well, I'm talking about solar powered, so they would
Right,
actually be, no?
I haven't seen, the only place I've seen them use a solar light, the panel was almost 3 by 3 on the pole. So they might have it now, I don't know.
All right. Anybody else? Hearing none. City Council liaison reports. Anybody have anything? Go ahead.
Yeah, we had a park board meeting last Monday, the 21st, and something interesting I learned, the park budget by their charter is approved in December. That kind of gave them some lead time to get it approved before it comes to the council. It's out of alignment with our budget cycle. Because of the staffing or the lack of staffing in finance, there are some financial statements they haven't had access to in the last couple months, so potentially the park board could come to us and ask for an extension. Brian, you're here. Maybe you can tell me if that's more likely or less likely.
I think since last week, I think we've got a plan. We're pretty close to going to our board. I mean, we got a finance committee next Wednesday night.
Okay.
And then it should be approved at the Monday park board meeting, the next one.
Okay.
So I think we're good to go.
So nothing for us to do as a council, but just a fun fact, park budget is a little different.
Why is that?
It's in the charter, and then it's also subject to the fact that the park board is what's called a Chapter 90 park board. They operate under Chapter 90 of the revised statutes of Missouri, so it's just off because of that kind of oddity.
I believe that's all I have.
Anybody else? Go ahead.
Well, November 16th, the Cass County Belton TDD had a meeting and nothing happened.
You got anything?
Nope.
Any other council communication? Anybody else?
I guess I have one thing I have to say. I have to congratulate those guys in public, I guess. They
Hold on.
Oh, okay.
Hold on.
Well, I didn't know the mayor was involved in this, so I just thought it was council
Well,
people.
I was gonna, go ahead, I was gonna.
No, I'm just gonna
I was
congratulate
mess
them in
around
public.
with them a little bit, but go ahead.
I did it on Facebook, but I'll do it in public, so.
Thank you. I have to give Rob all the credit.
Oh,
All right,
no, the residents are.
anybody else?
That's all I got.
But is this, that was council liaisons, is you asking
Yeah.
for council?
Yeah, council now.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm talking a lot, but anyway, I'll talk some more. I don't want to get in trouble for pushing anything that benefits me, but this is for the welfare of Belton, I think. I think you all know that my wife and I run the theater next door, and this play that's coming up is the first production of the play is called Borderline Crazy's Christmas Edition. And the playwright himself, who's well known throughout the country, is going to be there on Saturday night. And since it's the initial play or a performance of that play, every time that anybody does it, whether it's in Raymore or in New York City on Broadway, it will say first time performed in Belton, Missouri. So I think that's an interesting thing. And then second of all, and Patrick gave me some counsel on how to do this, but I think a lot of people know that in particularly Ward 3 and 4 residents, that they're speeding along Y Highway. MoDOT came through and put resurfacing on a year and a half ago, 18 months ago, but they still haven't put any crosswalks on. This gets back, I'm not going to talk about sidewalks anymore, but the residents that I've talked to think we need to have a radar sign that flashes for speeding, because speeding is a big factor. And so we're willing to finance it. We're willing to put it in and buy it. And I looked at the ordinances, and it says, signs exempt in 304, signs exempt from regulation. Following signs are exempt from regulation under this chapter, traffic signs. So Patrick said, well, even so, you should get a informal agreement from the council that you can do that. So it's not going to cost Belton anything, except unless other people complain that this flashing sign is on Y Highway, but
And we'll also need, if it's going to go on MoDOT right away, we'll also need
I was gonna say.
it's direction,
Right.
a motion directing city staff to work with MoDOT to inquire as to what needs to occur
Yeah,
to put
okay.
this sign up.
And I'd also like to say that if that's not the case, if that turns out to be like the 18-month issue with the crosswalks, then we have no problem putting it on our own property. So maybe that could be a second question down the way. But
I would recommend that we direct staff to look into this and see what we need to do with this before we make any
great. That's
hard-
all I'm asking is
hard and fast
for-
decisions.
Yeah.
So.
I have a question about that. Would that be like a permanent sign or a movable sign?
It'd be, well, it's movable in that you can take it down if somebody shoots it with buckshot, but it's permanent, yeah.
Who's in charge of those signs over by the high school when they're put up saying your speed is 26?
The movable ones?
Yeah. They say thank you for driving safely if you do the speed limit or less. It's like a nice little reward.
We have 3 speed trailers.
No, these are permanent signs on Cleveland.
Well, no.
She's asking.
No, you're right. They're movable.
But
Okay.
there is some permanent ones on Cleveland by the schools.
Sure. This one, but these are I think the speed trailers, and they give you a message if you're going the speed limit or less.
Yeah.
Would that be a
Like
good
the one
first
that
step?
sit out here for the last couple
Yes.
weeks. But yeah.
I think the
Yeah.
I think the signs that are fixed and by the schools, they're maintained by the schools, aren't they, Greg? Yeah, they were purchased
I'll
and
find
maintained
out.
by
I'll
them.
find out.
Well, I'm talking about your
They got
your
little ones, like
trailers, Chief
Kentucky
Lyons.
Trail has a little one on a light pole that's, you guys take them down usually in the summertime.
There was a mobile one, removable
On Mill.
on this side of this side.
Right in front of Mill Creek.
That's right in front of Mill Creek.
Yoakum.
Yoakum. It was out 3 or 4 blocks this way. Yoakum.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a
Would that be a
temporary one
good-
that they told me to slow down.
Potentially a good first step before directing staff to get in touch with MoDOT, just to see if it has any impact. Another real quick thing about signs, the purple and yellow signs that say like "Welcome to Belton Historic Downtown," it looks like the Munsters. It's like all peeling and scary looking now. Do you know what I'm talking about? Anybody?
Yes,
Okay.
I know what you're talking about.
Okay. Apparently, we have new signs for that. Steve Harvey has them at Whistle Stop, so I just wanted to coordinate maybe getting those. They're for the city to use, maybe Public Works. I can get y'all in touch, but we could get those scary melting signs down and put up the nice new ones. Okay.
They were cool for October though.
Yeah, bid 'em. I mean, someone's into that aesthetic, so maybe they could be raffled.
Anybody else?
So
have-
did we direct them to?
But
do
I
we
have a
to-
question if that is an official motion that,
Yeah, I move that we have what he just said.
I don't know that we need a motion to
Okay.
direct them to, I think they need to bring us something back before we,
I think based on the current discussion that's going on, there's not any controversy amongst council about staff inquiring with MoDOT about what is necessary to place those sorts of radar signs on Y Highway for public health and safety purposes.
Okay.
they might even have money to pay for them too, so. Anybody else? All right. I want to thank Andrea, especially Andrea, for all her hard work on the Mayor's Christmas tree and Christmas on Main, and Diane Huckshorn. I know she's not here, but and anybody else that helped with what took place last weekend. It was a great success, even though we did skirt the rain a little bit, but the rain did come in. I especially want to thank all that donated to the fund to help the Belton Welfare Association. We raised, I don't know exactly what. I know we had a check for $10,000, but we were above that, weren't we? So I just want to thank everybody and the Lions Club for cooking all the hot dogs that we bought, so they were good. I was gonna mess with Ward 4, but I won't, but they were victorious in, the council food donation count. They had 492 items, and I won't tell you who was in last place, but they had 46. So I'll leave it at that. That's all I have. You have anything?
Nothing for me today.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Second. We have a motion and a second to adjourn. Any discussion? Seeing none. Roll call. I want to do roll call today. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?